Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands and today it's the WNR592. It's time for an AEW Catch Up, and I'm not alone. A pleasure to be joined by our resident NXT expert and New Japan demigod. It is Monty. How's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm excited to be back as always. Now it's time to finally get a little caught up on AEW. I'm always looking forward to these shows because if it's one thing I do like about being a wrestling fan currently is that we got like three completely different palettes for the shows that I get to review. I mean four if you count New Japan, but with NXT in the main roster, I think those things we talk about all the time, James, those two completely different worlds. And then you got that little new weird existence that AEW finds itself in. I don't know. We left off on a pretty big high note with a new champion, so it's good to finally catch up and see what else we missed.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Like I said, we usually do the updates from AEW not having a pay per view. Luckily for some, I would say we are just going to catch up with a few dynamites today. But we are not alone. Who could forget? She's the same little girl that grew up next door to you. She went through all the things a teenage girl goes through, hanging out all night, breaking curfew with her daddy hit the door and gave her mummy the abuse. She used to spend the time blazing lazy in days. She thought she was grown, left home at 15, didn't want to obey, had to act like together, couldn't take the heat, and now she's making beats to the street because she's Mr. Dynamite. Dee-hee. She stayed blowing on your stereo, and we gotta hear her low. She's Miss Dynamite. Dee-hee. You hear her busting on the radio. Now you hear her feel the flow. Yes, it is Miss Dynamite. It is Gina. How's it going, G?
Yo, I'm ready to set this dynamite off.
I,
It goes well though for the AEW stream. I'm looking forward to this. I need this
yeah,
catch up, I think, and reminder.
without a doubt. I just thought that song. I think it started bad, but ended quite strong. The heart was there.
I'm always proud of the dedication you put into those songs, James.
One day I'm just gonna have a heart attack singing at the start of the show. Just you have to carry on without me. But like I said, we got so much to catch up on. We've got 8 dynamites, 8 collisions, plus Grand Slam. So let's get to it. Like I said, we'd last left it at World's End. We had the dynamite as well in the collision, which was January 3rd. It felt like a Ring of Honor show. Timeless Love Bombs and Bane and Ford won squash matches. Big Bill and Keith lost to Jet Speed. Shelton Benjamin beat Darius Martin. In the main event, Darby Allin beat Wheeler Utah. On Dynamite, January 7th, Jim Ross was on commentary. And Monty, what I found funny about this, they forced him to walk to the ring. Do you know, hasn't he been through enough? And it's like, go on, Jack, you make that walk.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know. I mean, it's always good to see JR. I think this is like a good little. The one thing I did give it is I think it kind of set the tone that this is like okay, this is the first show. We're setting up a new season and letting JR is back and he's here. But yeah, it was funny to watch him have to walk down the ring. And when you take it when you see it at first, it doesn't hurt. And I understand they're in Oklahoma, so maybe that's the reason why they had to give him an entrance, see if you get a good Oklahoma pop or whatever. But yeah, man, it was very, very interesting to watch him have to go through that entrance and just be like, well, okay, good to see you, JR. But he's been through a lot. So we're just happy to see him, but it was weird. It's like, oh, okay, we gotta watch him down there. Anything for that pop though. Anything for the pop.
Oh, fair play. I mean, he made it. It knackered him out for the rest of the show, but you know what I mean. At least, at least he did it. And like I said, he is a legend anyway. Then we see John Moxley beat Shelton Benjamin at 1955 in a 20-minute title eliminator. And Gina, I know we've mentioned this before, but Shelton Benjamin just hasn't aged 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where the portrait of Dorian Gray is, so to speak.
No, he honestly hasn't. He really hasn't. If you literally look at two side by side stills of him currently and one of 20 years ago, there's not really much difference apart from maybe he's a bit more jacked up, and a bit more muscled
Yeah.
up, you know? But he even his in-ring, performance looks like it's not been affected by the years. It's
No,
crazy.
it's unbelievable. Like I said, he's actually in better shape now than he ever has been, really. But yeah, it's incredible. We got an attack by the newest member of the Don Callis family, which is Jake Doyle. Yeah, that's what I thought. On jet speed before the show started, Jungle Jack Perry came out alone looking surprisingly confident. Matt and Nick Jackson arrived to back up Perry team with Jungle Jack for the first time since their friendship fell apart. Perry, Matt and Nick defeated Ricochet, Leona and Khan by pinfall. Afterwards, Jake and Mark Davis started a vicious attack on the Elite. The injured Jet Speed tried to even the odds, but the lights went out. Andrade arrived to rejoin the family again, standing tall over their enemies. Monty, there's a couple of things. Obviously, Jake Doyle was Jake something in TNA, and we'll maybe talk about what happened to him, the poor
Happy he
bastard.
finally
But
got a name.
yeah, and of course Ricochet lost again because he has a title. But Andrade back as well. We've seen him obviously in New Japan and now back in AEW.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it because he's gonna be a lot involved with a lot in this batch of episodes. So I'll talk about how I think he's done a great job of kind of doing something I don't think he ever got a chance to do in WWE. Which again, like I said, we'll talk about it once we talk about some of his matches. But it was good. Again, I have no problem with Andrade coming back. I always thought for all the guys who left. I think, and again, I don't like harping on his personal life or past, but I think when he left, we all thought that it had more so to do with his personal life than it had to do with like a fit. Because if you really think about what AEW does well and what are Andrade's shortcomings, he's always been perfect for the AEW style and roster and all that. So, and I think we'll talk again. I feel like he's been one of the highlights of these episodes that I was watching. So, I do think this debut at the time, and well, I know at the time when I first seen it, it was like, oh, they're going Andrade again, just popping up as he tends to do. But it's good that all that contract mess seemed to be out of the way, and he's able to just do his thing in Mexico, do his thing in New Japan, and now as you see him in AEW, the Don Callis family is way too big to control. I really feel like we're on the verge of like having a Don, like an NWO black and white, NWO red and black version of them, and it's just gonna be that big because that's how big that whole entire faction is. Because, like you said, you add Jake something or Jake Doll, which again, I like what they ended up doing with him too. Even though I think he's gonna get injured in this batch episode, so I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what happened. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll get to it. But anyway, again, adding everybody jumping into the one family is I don't say frustrating, but it's like annoying because it's just like, damn, man, when they all come out as a group, they already look like a third of the roster, and then here we are again. And I don't, every now I hear jokes about the Don Callis family being big, but when the people would talk about the House of Torture before they kind of have shrink in numbers, they would always point out, oh man, the House of Torture got too many people, they got 11 guys. And I'm like, well, look at the Don Callis family. Like, we literally got the same thing going on. So it is what it is. I'm excited that Andrade is back because, again, like I said, I think he fits well here. But we'll have to see what is to happen when it comes to his relation with the family and just the family in general, because they are involved also a lot in these past episodes.
Yeah, without a doubt. Willow Nightingale celebrated her championship victory, taking centre stage with Chris Statlander and Hardy Cameron behind her. She then welcomed Mercedes Moné, who came out in morning gear. Fight broke out, and the CEO was sent face first into cake and then power bombed onto it by Willow. I mean, Gina, again, the segment, it was what it was, but also, obviously with Mercedes Moné, as we know from what's happened since, taking a bit of time off is probably the right thing to do after her epic reign.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that she's had a bad year for 2025. Everything seemed to be shining her way all last year. So I think like it's really good now to take some time, focus on yourself, come out, let people miss you, so that when you do come back, you get that big pop again.
Yeah, I think without a doubt. Bandido defended the Ring of Honor title, beating Sammy. Oh, yeah, he still employed Guevara. MJF immediately interrupted the celebration, heading out with John Cruz to translate for him into Spanish, only for Bandido to make clear he speaks English. Salt the Earth
Yes,
tried
he
to take
does.
back his diamond ring, but only got himself Cruz knocked out with 21 plexes. I don't know how it works, but it does at the moment with Bandido. And it was Willie Uta's fault. He ruined Tony Storm versus Marina Shafir after Shafir knocked out Storm and Mina with kicks. Renee Paquette interviewed Pac backstage. Darby Allin demanded a match. When he couldn't get it, he attacked him. He then threatened to break his ankle with a door, and the bastard agreed, surprisingly. We also had a nice video of Tanahashi, and the main event was lights out. Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland versus the Ops. Hangman Swerve turned the tide and took out Hobbs with a Deadeye Swerve stomp on the cinder blocks, followed by a house call Swerve stomp and hanging via chain. This is AEW to Hook for the win by the submission. But Monty, the lights did indeed go out during this match, and I don't know if they took it too literal. It was an actual lights out match.
Yes. I try my best not to be hypercritical of them, because people really do get in their feelings when you point out that certain things are part of that, some things that happen a part of the AEW process or just experience. You can look back and just be like, dang, that is kind of, I don't want to say Bush League, because again, people think you're disrespecting them. But come on, man, we can't have a whole part of the match that is just barely visible and we trying to make out what you're watching because of whatever reasoning that we kind of had this going on. Again, I don't know if it was purposely done because there was a lights out tag match. I doubt it, but come on, man, we trying to see what's going on here. It don't really make sense to do it to that extent. This was what it was, though, and it was. I think it's kind of cool for people who know the history of Page and Swerve to see them kind of, you know what I mean, working together. In my opinion, but I do think AEW sometimes are their worst enemy. You have to put this in the context that this is a TV match, and it was a said TV match. But that's kind of like where I'm looking at it, to where it's like the fact that they do stuff like this sometimes on a week to week television basis. It is hard to not take this just for granted and just be like, oh, okay, here we go, another brawl. But like you mentioned, James, somebody literally was getting hung like on weekly television, and it's just like, and
It's
then people,
Dynamite, kids. Right?
right?
That's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. That's just normal television, and like people get frustrated when you try to bring that up, or they try to make it seem like, oh, you this and that, and you're hating, and it's just like, no, I'm not hating. I'm just saying, like, if somebody getting hung on my weekly Wednesday television, if you're trying to actually do it on pay per view or you're trying to do it later and make it mean something, it's gonna mean a little bit less because every week I watch somebody get hung or I watch somebody go through thumbtacks or whatever. Like sometimes I do wish that they just take it a little bit easy. They don't have to turn to WWE, and I get it. For some people, this is what make AEW AEW, and that's what make WWE and other stuff like that. But I do think, to an extent, if you really think about how much AEW, because I've watched every episode of AEW, except, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I watch all the collisions, but I watched pretty much every Dynamite ever. And you can't tell me that after over 300 or something episodes, it doesn't get a little bit watered down to see even something as brutal as what we're talking about, which is like you said, a literal hanging, but it's watered down because we've seen so much crazy shit under the AEW banner. Again, I'm not saying I don't like it. I get why it happened and it's cool, but I'm just saying the fact that this is on weekly television and just treated as another week of television it's very jarring to me at times.
Yeah, no,
It's like
you're
the roll up pin. It's like the roll up
Yeah,
pin toss, that being used so frequent, you're just like, it's not really a surprise anymore that that's how you ended this match.
exactly. So yeah, it's one of those things that I do wish that they would be a little bit more selective with, but AEW is gonna AEW, man.
on to Collision January 10th. Death Riders won a squash. Mark Briscoe defended the TNT title versus Head Cesaro. Statlander, Hardy Cameron, and Willow beat Maya and Hyan Weld with Vixen, and it makes Tekla sick. And I can't believe it was a main event. The Demand beat Jet Speed and Anthony Bowens. And when you don't know what to do with a finish, end in a brawl. Dynamite Maximum Carnage, January 14th. We started the action with a grudge match between Darby Allin and Pac. Darby got the win, and with that, he has beaten all the Death Riders, Gina. But I think the thing that stands out again is the bump on the stairs, which was just, I will say, disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of like goes back to the point that Monty just made. It's like sometimes it's great seeing all of this violence, and we know that AEW like to bring the blood and guts, as they like to say. But when does it sometimes get too often that you're seeing someone take a really horrible bump somewhere and wondering whether they're going to be able to show up for next week's event or next month's pay-per-view, you know?
Yeah, and especially with because again, the arguments made was like even someone like Mick Foley. Do you know what I mean? Back in the day, I would end up in a wheelchair, but what his weight and size compared to like Darby will just his back will snap one day. I know it's bad to say,
I
but
feel
like
like Darby is like, if you are not going to punish me to the worst, then I'm not turning up for the episode. You know,
yeah.
that's how it feels at this point.
Yeah. Is there a car involved? Is there? I need a car involved, otherwise I'm not coming to TV. All right.
If there's no
Yeah.
car, then there has to be glass or at least a throw down the stairs.
Yeah, yeah. Can you try kill me at least once? All right. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. Hangman beat Brian Keith. Afterwards, the Cowboy wanted Simone Smith was saying he would take everything from Joe. Mo then warned MJF he and Hangman were still coming for him. Kenny Omega arrived to tell both men he would go through them, and anyone else earned the way to the world title. All three agreed that the best man would get to MJF. Afterwards, Hangman and Swerve left. Don Callis arrived to challenge Omega to fight Josh Alexander for the following week. And then we had Davison Doyle defeating Jet Speed, Young Bucks, and GOO by pinfall to become the new number one contenders to the World Tag Team Championships. This was really fun, actually. I did like Davison Doyle. Tekla Hart and Blue defeat Stat, Willow, and Harley by pinfall. The final one was all about the Toxic Spider. It was too much for both Willow and Stat, setting the stage for her to pin the Cosmic Killer. And again, we're going to talk about it more, Monty, but Tekla I thought was really impressive in this match. And again, it's weird to look back on like a period of time, but I think she's been on fire the past couple of months, building up momentum.
Yeah, and again, she was always one of my favorites in the Stardom days. And like I've always seen the potential, but I'm glad AEW has kind of decided to do this because at times I do think we kind of focus on the top level of our women's division in AEW a lot to where we haven't always created those girls or those gals who will lead the charge going forward. And it feels like when you think about like what happened with Mercedes championships and you think about even Chris getting the belt, even though I do got some I can definitely pick apart like what they've done with Chris since she won the belt and how that hasn't always she seemed like especially recently have kind of been in the she's kind of fallen off at the importance ladder of where I would probably like my women's world champion to be. But outside of that, I do think at the end of the day, we know that they kind of made a star and a frontline star in Statlander with her beating Tony. And then now we kind of have with Willow on, with a championship. And now it seems like we're in the area. We also got the tag team division heating up. And you have that area where we're trying to make Marina Shafir matter more. We're trying to make Thekla matter more. We're trying to make Penelope Ford and Megan Bain actually pick up victories and matter more. So, yeah, man, it's really cool. And I think Tekla right now is in the bench. She's on like she's having a really good run. She's picking up momentum, and I think that is ideal. Like, again, I have some nitpicks about some of the booking decisions, but the best thing about what we're seeing right now with the women's division is the fact it feels like we're finally starting to try to build up that next tier of women's wrestlers to take over and lead the charge with for AEW going forward, along with the established stars that we already have.
Yeah, without a doubt. The Rascals are on their way to AEW. More of this in a bit. The main event was the AEW Men's World Championship. MJF taking on Bandido. And I mean, Bandido took him to the limit, but we saw Bandido pass out from the pain in the injured arm. Afterwards, MJF put Bandido as a future AEW champion. And Brody King made a save for MJF could rip off the mask. So, I mean, Gina, again, Bandido is great, but he's still the Ring of Honor World Champion as well. So again, it's just like, I understand him being in this match, but it's like, what's the point of fucking Ring of Honor? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really keep up with the Ring of Honor shows, so I don't know how often like they're showcased, but it does make it a little bit confusing because you're just like, we have these Ring of Honor champions who are shown on AEW to lose frequently. So I don't understand. Are they prestigious champions or is Ring of Honor even happening still?
But I even have to go like, is he still champion, or did they just take it off him and just not say in these characters? Because like, why did Brodido stop? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I have
what's
no
going on?
idea. Yeah. It is really confusing because they sometimes keep you up to date with these things and then others they don't. Like you'll just see someone come without the belt and you're just like, wait, did they lose it then?
Yeah, just let us know, guys. Collision January 17th. Andrade won a squash. The Rascals made their AEW debut on Collision, but only Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and Desmond Xavier emerged from the usual smoke-filled room. We soon learned that the fourth Rascal, Trey Miguel, had been quietly released from his contract he just signed, along with his teammates days earlier. Over the course of the day, a few past instances of Miguel displaying bigoted behaviour while arguing with others on social media resurfaced, include homophobic comments to troll on Facebook in 2020 that Miguel apologised for the same day, and anti-Semitic ones on Twitter exchange with a Jewish now former wrestler the year before. Miguel did apologise, saying past mistakes, and he said he's a different man now and he wants to take time off. Monty, I mean, when I was thinking, Wentz will stay quiet because he was released by WWE for dressing as Hitler. But I don't want to make light of this. I don't want to make light of the situation, if you know what I mean.
That was always my thought. Again, not trying to make light of anything he did and anybody he offended in the past because yeah, it is what it is, and I do think that it's the right decision is to kind of make somebody have to pay or like I think that's the right sentiment, and that's the right message to send to other wrestlers who may be looking to sign there, knowing that they've done things in the past or et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that I'm with you. Like that was my all initial thought process. Just like, oh, if we can get fired over old posts, like Wentz is not kicked out also when he was making he was healing and had the mustache and all of that he had going on. So it's just like yeah, it's kind of that's the part that kind of sent me like a mixed signal. I'm like, what was so unique about his mistake versus what Wentz did. But again, I'm not saying they shouldn't have did what they did because I understand it, and again, I'm not saying AEW did the wrong thing or anything, and I understand the process and I understand why things were done, but yeah, it's one of those things that kind of sucks though because I do think he's pretty talented. And he in Impact, he had a really good run. Whether all the Rascals were there and or in Impact or not, so I do think he had potential. But I do think that's also one of the benefits of having such a big faction that I don't think they still had people to fall back on. So where it
Yeah,
didn't
but they've
really
only been
turn.
four for it was like a month they were together as a four again. Do
Yeah,
you know
as
what
a
I mean?
four, yeah, that's the one thing about it because Myron is relatively new, right? So to
Yeah.
the group as far as like the original, like this is one of the actual original wrestlers. So yeah, it's very weird, very weird. But again, I can't say I don't understand why this took place the way it did. It sucks because again, like you mentioned, it would have been nice to have all four of them there as originally intended, and it would have been there's no telling what they could have got up to as a little mini faction of their own. But I do think as a trio they still can be successful because again, kind of like I mentioned on Andrade, I thought Wesley had the potential. He could have been great under any banner because I know he has that talent. But you can't lie, James, from what we know about Wesley, he fits right in with these guys, especially with his
Yeah.
style in ring. So hopefully they don't get forgotten, and it's just not something that we forget, and we end up forgetting that they're employed in a year or two, kind of like you just did with Sammy Guevara and all of that. So hopefully we don't have to worry about that for the Rascals, and they're involved and they're doing interesting things because I do think they're talented. But yeah, it's really unfortunate for Miguel because again, I like him, and it's good that he still, even though he took his break, he had Impact to fall back on. But yeah, man, it does kind of suck for him that he wasn't able to get this opportunity. But again, I do understand making him kind of atone for anybody he's hurt in the past.
Yeah, but as you said, you can't. It's only once. If you send a bad tweet out, you can't. Be done with it twice. It's only that's the rules now. Like, do you know what I mean? So at
Exactly. Yep.
least we all know that. And Gina, it's a shame because, as Monty mentioned, to see Wesley, as we know how criminally underrated he was towards the end of NXT, to him get a chance, and then we had this kind of the Rascals fallout, and that's it. Trey Miguel went to TNA and was like, "No, everything's fine." So it's
Yeah, you kind of, hope maybe, a rocky start, but maybe we can just move past this silently, brush it under the rug and act like it didn't happen in a couple months' time and just move on and hope that it doesn't give him a stigma for the way his, career is going to play out in the AEW like that.
Yeah, and also I love the fact that we've got like a literal faction that smokes weed backstage now, and in
Yep.
Yes,
2026, no one really mentions it. Do you know what I
I
mean?
love
Like
it.
if this was
That's
20
because
years
everybody
ago,
else is doing the same thing. So
yeah,
they probably
it's-
can all relate. Everyone can relate.
I know RVD wish he wrestled in a different era.
we see Eddie Kingston and Ortiz beat the Grizzled Young Vets. Why didn't we have a promo battle between Eddie Kingston and Zach Gibson? Because they hate me. That's why. And also the inconsistency of wrestling. I hate it. Right, Gina, I know this sounds bad, right? But on Dynamite, a referee checked the arm once and called for the bell. The very next episode, Eddie arm is checked 3 times. Make that make sense to me.
No,
Make that make
honestly,
sense.
there are some like referees that you think either don't know what they're doing or they've just been told to act this way in the match and we've got to sideline things. But it just doesn't make sense sometimes when like, it's a normal match, but the ref is not counting them out. He's just
Look,
stood
I
in the
don't.
ring watching them bash each other outside the ring. He's not counting, and it's a normal match. Like there's so many discrepancies that happen that I've just kind of thought, right, it's either the referees being messy or it's just the team backstage saying, don't worry about the rules for this match, okay?
Well, no, what really gets on my nerves, and I know I shouldn't really talk about it on an AEW pod, but still, at WrestleMania, when Bobby Lashley had the hurt, lock in on Drew, referee only checked the arm once. If he'd have checked it, do you know what I mean? Check it 3 times,
And
give Drew a chance. But you know what I mean? No, no.
no,
I'm sure, you know.
I think the real
Anyway,
problem is consistency, man. We have no consistency. Nobody has a
no.
legit. That's how we do it. Rule.
It
We
was the
just switch it
next
up whenever we want
program.
to.
It was like
Right.
literally, it wasn't even like there was
Just
no
give me
excuse.
consistent, bro.
Ah, Jesus Christ. I've got to calm down now. Marina Shafir won a squash. Fletcher and Alexander and El Clone beat Skyfly. Mox and Callis were great on commentary, to be fair. Archer and Ricky attacked Mox, and the Death Riders fought back. Megan Bain and Penelope Ford won a squash. Jack Perry beat Anthony Bowens to get a shot at Ricochet's title. And in the main event, Hangman and Jet Speed beat the Ops. And this was Powerhouse Hobbs' last AEW match. So we got new 6-man tag team champions. But again, and Gina, this might be a bit weird for you, but Monty, we have done it before on updates where, like, to see Powerhouse Hobbs, like, watching him in AEW, go, fuck, I saw him in a Rumble like a month previously. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
does mess with your head a little bit.
Yeah, man. It's very, very, very weird to kind of catch up, like you said, and see that when we already kind of know what is in. It was also funny because, like, I think after this, AW just kind of out of sight, out of mind in him in the sense. Like from now on, I don't think they ever really explained what happened. And then, in my mind, already filling in the blank, just knowing, yep, and he got beat. He got pinned here and just teleported to Saudi Arabia, I guess. But yeah, no, this was cool. This is a good. I think Adam Page and Jet Speed worked well together in this match, and I think they are a cool trio to have with these belts. If someone was going to have to defeat the Ops, I think at the end of the day, Hobbs again. I think I see a lot of people just being like, "Oh, WWE's not going to do this with them and do that with them," and that I do think it's fair to kind of look at WWE with a side eye when they take talent, but I don't necessarily because we're going to talk about someone else who kind of with the opposite thing happened, and that energy is never really reciprocated towards AEW because we want to act like AEW uses everybody they got from WWE successfully when that's not always the case. It usually starts strong and sometimes they fade away, they fade out. And so again, I'm hopeful for Hobbs because I think he had a really success. People, in my opinion, are underrated how successful of a run he kind of had in AEW. And that's just where we are now. Like you can tell, James, how many of these people were actually around when we actually had WWE. And I mean on both sides, AEW fans and WWE fans. You can tell how many people were actually around when we actually had WCW and WWE alive and at their best at the same time. Like this happens all the time. Like this is what we want. We want our wrestlers, whether they're young or whether they're older, to be able to go to each big promotion, make as much money as they possibly can, make as many memories, have as many good matches and stories as they possibly can. And I think I wish the same thing for Powerhouse Hobbs. I don't wish him to go to WWE and not be as successful because I like him better in AEW and vice versa for anybody else who does the opposite. So it's very weird to me what comes out of certain wrestling fans when these things happen. And it really showcases, in my opinion, when it's a young guy like how a younger, not young guys, but he's young kind of in the business and he's young in what he's done. And like the fact he's never had a WWE run before. When it's a guy who did a WWE run and he goes to AEW, the energy is usually a lot different, in my opinion. But when it's an AEW guy who's never been to WWE and they go to WWE, it seems like a lot more negativity goes their way. And I don't understand why, when, in my opinion, they could go there and make as much money as they possibly can and never know. It might turn out and he might be able to find a niche and do something that allows him to be a star as Royce Keys, the same way he was as Powerhouse Hog. I know that's not always the case. I don't go there rooting for Triple H to ruin the guy, and that's what I don't understand. But anyway, this was successful in my opinion when it came to giving the trio title off of Hobbs and the Ops. I think this is Adam Page and Jet Speed. Jet Speed are awesome tag team. Adam Page just only makes them even more important. So I thought it was a cool little step here. Fun match, but yeah, man, I wish the best for Hobbs. I'm not, I know we kind of know where his journey began, but he hasn't really done much since that Rumble. So I'm hoping the best, and I hope they actually find something good for him to sink his teeth into.
Yeah, without a doubt. But yeah, it's quite weird. We've seen him debut at the Rumble and then leaving AEW the next podcast. Dynamite, January 21st. Taz was back on commentary, and Gina again. I don't want to be that guy, but it's like Taz is back, and I was like, has he been away? Like, I'm sure he has. It's great to see him in that, but I don't maybe notice weekly. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's definitely good to see him, but I do see what you mean. I did kind of forget that he was gone from it. I wasn't mad to see him back either, but again, I didn't really notice that he was gone. I think I'd notice more if like Excalibur was gone or Brian Danielson.
Yeah, because even I think Nigel McGuinness said on Dynamite just gone. He's like, I've been away 4 weeks. I go, have you? Like, I should go back and listen to Collision.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think I remember that and being like, oh, since when?
Oh, good for you, Nigel. Good for you, Taz, as well. You know, it's great. Brody King, what's MGF? Smojo beat Speedball Mike Bailey. And it was ridiculous that the Ops kept interfering. But again, Monty, make it make sense. Hangman and Knight, who gave a promo backstage right before this match, didn't help at all. They just watched. Like, what the fuck is that about?
You know
Help!
what? And like I was watching it, I was so lost in just trying to and seeing that how good Speedball looked at times, even though he was definitely getting his natural ass whooped also. So I liked it because I was like, oh yeah, Speedball's getting the chance to show everybody what he can do. But yeah, now that I think about why did they just watch and let them suffer like that? So yeah, that's very weird. But again, that's just some of those things that I'm not trying to say that you have to suspend all logic to enjoy AEW, but I do think
I just,
sometimes you gotta suspend logic to enjoy AEW. So yeah, it's fun sometimes. It's fun, but it was cool to see him out there in that spot against Joe. But yeah, the fact that the Ops were kind of taking advantage of the numbers game, it was interesting that they didn't even make a run in.
couldn't even be bothered. Daniel Garcia, Mox, and Yuta defeated Rocky Romero, Archer, and Hechicero by knockout in a wild street fight. FTR beat Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. Kenny Omega beat Josh Alexander in a fun match. And Penelope Ford and Megan Bain beat Timeless Love Bombs pretty clean. Marina Shafir attacked as Amina was getting pinned. And in the main event, Swerve beat Kevin Knight. But Gina, again, as we talk about, there's been a lot of championship eliminators recently. And I don't mind it because I think we were talking about the last pod. At least there's stakes. And as we talk about Penelope Ford and Megan Bain getting the opportunity, beating Timeless Love Bombs was a bit of a shock, even though they're not the champions. But you get my point.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shock in the sense of the popularity that the Timeless Love Bombs have over Penelope and Megan. But one thing I personally will say is I feel like if Penelope didn't get injured, they possibly would have been the original first winners of the tag belts because they were probably the most situated tag team in the whole tournament. So in my opinion, I wasn't shocked that they would be the sort of next in line to at least like challenge for the belts, because I do feel like that them as a tag team are probably up there as one of the most consistent women's tag teams on AEW wrestling right now. And if it wasn't for Penelope's injury, I definitely think she would have been in that finale with Megan as well. And I think the main reason that Megan didn't win the belts at that point was because she wasn't with Penelope. So yeah, in some ways, yes, it was shocking because the popularity with the Timeless Love Bombs was there, and you would have thought because Tony's not in the women's title picture at the moment that that would be the next step for her, being, you know, a tag team champ with her bestie. But yeah, I'm also not mad at the fact that Megan and Penelope got it, because I do personally think that those two are owed a tag title shot.
Yeah, without a doubt. Collision January 24th. Hangman beat Shibata in a by the numbers match. Chris Statlander beat Isla Dawn. But Monty Dawn looked good, though, didn't she? I don't know if she's looking better each week, but, you know, maybe I'm just being a bit of a hound dog.
I mean, well, it depends on, like, in that case, she's always look she always look good that way. But yeah, no, she is. I think she's improving. The thing is about it is just like, do you like the problem is that she hasn't really gotten a lot of time. So I'm just like, I wonder if she keeps being in these shorter, type of matches, showcase matches. Will she ever? Would that gain her more ground, and eventually she'll be able to showcase even more of what she can do? Because I think like you said, they've only scratched the surface really of her talent. But the fact that she's still getting out there and getting TV time, I do think is something. But yeah, man, she's always looking good in my opinion.
Damn. Carl Fletcher and Takeshita beat Austin and Billy Gunn and Gina. We talked about Shelton Benjamin. I mean, Billy Gunn still looks good, but also we're going to talk about kind of cursed factions probably at the chamber. And the Bang Bang Gang are pretty cursed if it's Austin. He has to bring his dad to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, if everybody else is injured, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel more like a throwaway again. Like, oh yeah, nobody else is around, so we'll just go with you again. Come on, Dad, let's bring you to work day.
Yeah, but he's like, oh, come on, I don't want to. But no, he's still looking good. Davison Doyle beat Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. And Willow defended the TBS title versus Julia Hart in a good match. And now it looks like Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor are a tag team. Andrade beat Magnus from CMLL. He is so horny right now. He even took his trousers off. The man, I mean, Gina, you know what I'm like with a man taking his pants off. But Andrade he's gagging for it, isn't he? You know?
I secretly think you like it, James.
I'm like, throw him this way. I am, yeah. Um, anyway, Dynamite, January 28th. We were told that Samoa Joe had suffered a training injury. All right. Kenny Omega beat Rocky Romero. Tony Schiavone advised the cleaner he would face the winner between Swerve Strickland and Andrade later in the night next week. The winner would then face Hangman Adam Page at Grand Slam Australia for the shot of Revolution against MJF. Hangman interrupted to say he was going to be the next champion. Swerve interrupted and got in Omega's face, promising victory to come. Don Callis arrived, promising Andrade's victory to come, as well as doom for the Cowboy. Omega ran off Callis. But again, Monty, we have a go at AEW, and we probably have a lot already. But this set the stage for kind of Revolution and what challenges are out there as well. I quite liked it. Do you know what I mean? And it set TV up for the next few weeks as well.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite thing that AW is doing right now in general is the title scene and just how we have so many people who whether they're working together, whether they are not, there's so many people who are just straight up letting it be known that their intention is MJF in the World Championship, and I just love that clear direction. And I just love the fact that we have so many different ways that this can go. We can do all of this and MJF beats them all. We can do this and we finally get a Kenny Omega run out of it. We can get a Swerve run out of it. And, Hangman can get his belt back. And all of that is actually believable. And so far, everybody has moved with the logic. Now, I do think the Don Callis family's involvement in Kenny Omega's business is kind of annoying, but I've kind of accepted the fact that that is going to be until that family or until that bald evil man is gone, Kenny is probably gonna have to deal with it. So unfortunately, that's like the only thing I don't really care for is the fact that we're still kind of doing this Kenny Omega versus the family thing in the background. of his chase of the world championship. But that is the best thing I think AEW did in these entire batch of episodes is the not only just the stuff that MJF himself is involved in, but the fact that we have at least 3 to 4 other guys who we know exactly that everything they do, whether they're just fighting each other, they're fighting other people, everything that they're doing to do, every match Kenny Omega has, everything he's done is all about building himself up to possibly get a shot at MJF or a shot at the AEW World Championship. And I think that is cool because, like you mentioned with the title eliminated, everything they do, even if it seems like a match we expect them to win, it all ties into that chase of the World Championship. And that is when, it's one of my favorite things in wrestling is when everything is logical, everything makes sense week to week. And that's the most concise thing I think AEW has been doing.
Yeah, well, Tony probably got asked why he's blowing 400 grand on fucking matches every week. Do you know what I mean? I've got to come up, I've got to come up with something different. um, but yeah, like I said, it is working. John Moxley beat Ace Austin in the Continental Championship Eliminator. Takeshita arrived out afterwards as the Alpha took his leave. Mark Davis and Jake Doyle attacked and laid out the Death Rider. Mark Briscoe defended his TNT title versus the Clone. Afterwards, Briscoe said he was going right back to action on Saturday with a TNT Championship Open Challenge for anyone not in the Don Callis family. In a shocking debut, Tommaso Ciampa arrived to answer that challenge, making the match official for Collision. The Psycho Killer kissed Briscoe on the cheek for some early mind games. Gina, Tommaso Ciampa relevant in 2026. What happened?
Like, who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
Not me. The way he was being showcased last year, the way he went out in WWE, I just didn't really expect him to be, debuting so quickly and, in such a prestigious match as well. So yeah, I didn't see this coming.
No. Like I said, really good. Biggest pop jumper has got in a long, long time. And like I said, we get onto that collision title match in a minute. Brody King told MJF he would see him next week. Got the AEW Women's World Championship, Chris Statlander versus Tekla. Tekla offered a handshake to start, only to slap the Cosmic Killer in the face. The intensity only ramped up from there. Stat hit Saturday Night Fever for the victory in a great match. Willow and Hardy celebrate with Stat afterwards before Megan Bain and Penelope Ford arrived to stare down the champions. And Monty, again, there's no denying the women can deliver quality matches, as we saw here between Tekla and Statlander, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, like I said, I think this show, even if it wasn't the longest match, I think for a TV match, both of these girls end up looking so damn cool. Their chemistry was pretty cool, and again, the struggle in it, the presentation of it all, and it's funny that I feel like they could have did a lot more. A really good bout. The crowd, in my opinion. I ain't gonna say they let it down, but you can tell that they still aren't as invested as I would like for what I believe Statlander represents and what she is. And this has been the best part, like the hard hitting match that they're letting Statlander have. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was watching this, and Tekla shined so much that it would have been nice that if she could have, I was watching the match here, and I was like, you know what, it would have been a nice little surprise there to let her, win here. And but I think, again, this is a strong defense, and I think the character work that we got in the match, and like even though it was just a serviceable kind of like television match, I think it was really good for what Statlander was, doing here at the time with the championship. And I think at the end of the day, like you said, we know that they can put on a good show. It's just, I don't know why it feels like even with this going on, Statlander's run in general up to this point, just wasn't really going as far as I was hoping it was going. Maybe that's because I'm comparing it to the heights of like Tony Storm, Mariah May, or et cetera, et cetera. Not Mariah May's run, but just like her involvement, her story with Tony Storm. Maybe that's what it is, a storytelling point of view. But I do think at the end of the day, this particular match was really good, and like you said, it really set. And again, it's a nice little reminder of what value that they have in their women's division if they decide to actually focus on it.
Yeah, and there's a real chemistry between the two, and I was surprised this wasn't the main event. I understand the main event was great, but it is the world title, so to speak. And speaking of world titles, the World Tag Team Championships online, FTR versus Mark Davis and Jake Doyle. FTR were overwhelmed early by the power of Don Callis' monster team, who threw around the champions. Doyle took a DDT on the apron, and Catchy could be heard saying that he tore his bicep. He did not participate in the rest of the match. John Moxley arrived with Marina Shafir blasting Davis in the back with a championship, setting up a shat machine for the FTR retention. So Mark Davis did indeed McIntyre himself. But Gina, I mean, it's a shame, isn't it? It's a new guy come along. You probably don't know, Jake something, but the team with Davis and Doyle was just getting started, and then a massive blow in a title match, which they were doing well with.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. Again, this seems to be something repetitive that, AEW likes to do with interruptions and taking the center away from what the match originally started off. So in a way, like it feels like their aesthetic now.
Yeah. It is a shame for Doyle as well. Main event was Swerve Strickland versus Andrade. After a second house call, Andrade pushed referee Aubrey Edwards and kicked Swerve between the legs. He followed up with the DM to win. At the end of the show, MJF was confronted by Kenny Omega, Andrade, and Hangman Page on his way out of the building. But yeah, Swerve and Andrade, Monty, what a match that was.
Yeah, man, I recommend anybody to go seek it out. I mean, it was just a really good, tight 15 minutes of just some of the best wrestling in the world. Two guys that I think that if you just put their names against each other, you would expect really good stuff. But I think they really impressed me. They had really good chemistry, and I think honestly, again, this is another one of those matches that you can see even without the pace and all of that, you can kind of see with the intensity that this can be like a championship match, at some point, no matter who's on top. And I really loved it. And I honestly, I understand that some people may not like the gimmick that Andrade has with the fans, but I think he's done something in his time returning with AEW. Even if that means kind of horning himself out a little bit, that's the most connection I've seen of him with like just the fans. And maybe I'm looking at it from just an American wrestling point of view. Maybe he kind of always kind of had it when he was in Mexico or in the past. But if you really think back to like his run in the WWE, especially when he returned, but even before that, he was always lacking something. Like we always, I think even in WWE, they knew he could wrestle, but it's just that connection with the people outside of him doing great moves he didn't really ever have that. And you can blame. I know a lot of people like to blame the promo or blame like his lack of the English vernacular, but I don't think it's always that. I think that's probably a part of it, but I do think even something as simple as trying to make him a ladies' man. He's a handsome guy. You know what I mean? And he dresses well. I think he's leaning into this aesthetic really, really nicely. And I don't think it's that. I know some people think it's cringy. I don't think it's cringy. I think it's good because it actually is giving him something to connect to those live audience, even if it is, even if they are plant girls or whatever, whoever they call them to do it. It's a good look, and it makes Andrade look like a big deal. And then he cheats to win, which also works for what he's trying to do. And he feels like a very real world championship contender. And let's be honest, when he was in WWE, even with the best of seven with Melo, with some of the best work he had did in WWE in general, this is by far the closest and the best he's ever looked in American television in a while, ever since like his NXT champion days, where he feels like he could be world champion material. And giving him a win over Swerve, in my opinion, even if it is with a screwy finish, lets you know that even AEW at least wants us to believe that he has a chance to be their world champion. So I really have to give them whoever idea it is to give Andrade that type of gimmick along with him just adding that along with his already fantastic work. I'm over the moon with what Andrade has been doing, in my opinion, so far in his return to AEW.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Jada, like I said, Monty mentions a couple of great points there. We talked about the New Japan pod as well, about Andrade being motivated. He seems motivated now, and not many people do beat Swerve. Swerve is the main event talent.
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult because you do keep sitting there thinking, wait, which one's being pushed more at this point? Which one's higher at this point? So they both just kind of keep leveling each other out.
But a big win for Andrade without a doubt. Collision January 31st, Darby Allin defeated Clark Connors. Gabe Kidd attacked Darby after. Kidd said he's going to kill him. All right. The Rascals, this is AEW. The Rascals beat Crew, Orange Cassidy, and Tony Storm. Won a squash. Yuta Marina attacked afterwards. Wheeler tried to cut Orange Cassidy's hair, and a challenge was made for Grand Slam. And then
Mm.
Tommaso Ciampa defeated Mark Briscoe to win the AEW TNT Championship. Gene, we just spoke about Ciampa debuting, which was a surprise. Did you think he was going to win the TNT title against Mark Briscoe?
No. So when he came out to announce like his debut and challenge, I kind of was at a loss because I was like, you can't have him go into this challenge and not win. But then are they really going to have Ciampa come in and take the win on his debut match, you know? So it was like I had no idea what they were going to do with him. I think the right outcome came from this match, but I was still shocked by it.
Yeah, I'm sure things will work out for Ciampa. The AEW International Championship is indeed still a thing. Okada defended against Priest. No, not that one. And the main event, Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale and Hardy Cameron defeated the Sisters of Sin, Julie Hart and Sky Blue, to retain the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championship. Tekla attacked afterwards, with Statlander making a save, only to be taken out by Bane and Ford. And Monty, again, I don't want to keep pissing and moaning, but if Collision is going to be used correctly, I don't want it to be like Ring of Honor light. I want it to be like this. You know, like I said, give the women more matches on the show and give them the main event to experience it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think this would be that's a great use of it. Let's get title matches, even if it is a TNT title. Like you said, Women's World Tag Team is a great way to use it. Even like you said, Okada's but I think having three title matches on a collision does give you a little bit of incentive to at least try to keep your eye on it, try to catch up. This was in Arlington. I actually kind of wanted to go see this show in Texas, but things didn't line up with my schedule. So next time they're in Texas, hopefully I will probably finally get a chance to see them. But uh, again, I'm with you. I kind of think this is the best use of it. We can't have it being Ring Around the Light. We can't have it being just. I do think sometimes they get a little bit lazy with Collision. I just think instead of a continuing storyline, we do a run in here. We do something there to just kind of get us to the next level, and then actually the next storyline beat actually happens on the next Dynamite. So you're kind of watching Collision, and it just feels like another batch of matches instead of something actually unique or something different. But this collision right here actually gave us things to grasp along onto, like you said, with the tag team title defense. And yeah, man, I think like you said, this is the best use of collision because even if somebody like me who don't watch it all the time, I don't. I will say that if I found out if I had more incentives, if I had something to look forward to that I knew would be on collision, it would be easier to make time for it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Dynamite February 4th, we start with the Death Riders versus the Don Callis family with Alexander the Clone and Takeshi beating Mox, Garcia, and Pac when the Alpha
Our Death
pin.
Riders babyface.
I haven't got a fucking clue. Gina, any idea about Death Riders? When did anything happen? Did I miss anything about it, or did they just start fighting with the Don Callis family?
Uh, no, I think you're right. I think they just started fighting with them.
Yeah, because there's no doubt Yuta is still a heel, or was a heel, wasn't he? You
Right.
know, and Pac's a bit of a bastard, isn't he? You know, and I don't know what the fuck is going on with Claudio. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, Will Ospreay's on the way back. Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy won a squash. Clark and Gabe kidnapped Darby. We later saw Darby getting towed by Gabe's car. As we've mentioned, Alan probably asked for it. You know, he was like, "Look, I need to be dragged by this car." Gina, I've got to ask you a question. How the fuck did Hangman just have to beat Mark Davis? You know, I mean, no offense, but I don't think the booking is going to help the hardcore fans on page. You know.
No, I think we definitely need something more than that. But, you know, Tony's going to do what Tony's going to do.
Yeah, I suppose. But then again, maybe he doesn't care. You know, Hangman doesn't care about the hardcore fans, or people what people think on social media if he's posting pics with his friends like he is. You know. We've got up next was Kenny Omega versus Andrade. Callis threw the screwdriver for El Idolo. Swerve Strickland arrived to take it away, but Aubrey Edwards got in the mogul's face and missed a low blow to set up the DM from Andrade to win. After Omega and Swerve argued until they brawled and barely broken up by security. And as we mentioned, Monty Andrade wrestling the best he has in years, even with paid porn stars at ringside, you know. But again, another
Yes, I
quality match
definitely,
on. I guess they're porn
definitely.
stars. Sorry, I
No, no,
assumed I heard I didn't recognize them at all.
you didn't look it up.
No, I didn't know who they were by
I
first
was
name anyway.
recommended. I was recommended to search up some people, but
I'll Google
I'm a
now.
child. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. Anyway, I'll run you the names later. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, Andrade again, like you said, some of the best wrestling of his career by far, easily. And then again, in there with a guy like Kenny Omega. I mean, again, pretty much the same things I was saying about Swerve. You can almost double it with Kenny Omega because we know what he represents. We know who he is for AEW, and for them to allow them to again to get for them to get plenty of time. And again, like I just think he's Andrade is so impressive, and it's just really, really cool to, like you said, finally see him, like you say, motivated, finally in a position where it feels like someone is going to actually put him in the spot to showcase what he does really, really well, and not put him in spots that he doesn't get a chance to do that. I do think you can't watch what he's been doing in AEW and not think that he was in WWE only at that point to be putting people over, because we see all the new guys that's in WWE, and Andrade probably would have still been there just putting guys over, or or at best leading AAA, which he's already done. He's already been on top of Mexico. We know what he wants. So for to see him in AEW getting this shine, and again, who you wouldn't expect it maybe a couple years ago or whatever, but I do think it's really, really good to kind of have him not only get that win over Swerve, instead of halting his momentum and saying, "Oh, you're good, but we don't think you're better than our boy Kenny Omega," giving him a chance to win this. And then also, again, like I mentioned, all those story beats, everything we're seeing, still going back to the AEW World Championship. We know that El Idolo wants the world title. We know Kenny wants it, but Swerve and Kenny brawling and kind of having a fallout afterwards, also kind of again leading us to another little mini storyline that's all wrapped around their world championship. It's really, really cool, man, when everything makes sense, and you're allowed to also get really good wrestling out of it. So I think this is definitely a highlight. And yeah, Swerve and Andrade, and definitely check out Andrade and Kenny Omega, two of the best matches and then we got it for free. And that's always one thing I always give AEW. Even if they do kind of overstimulate you at times. I know as a fan, for me, maybe I'm just an old man at this point. I do get overstimulated by AEW and all that sometimes, but they do give you a lot of great, good stuff on free TV as versus just making you have to always have to wait for the pay per view for it. You know.
Yeah, without a doubt. In the tag eliminator, Mega Man beat the Babes of Wrath. Harley was pinned, and the numbers caught up with Jungle Boy as he tried to take the national title from Ricochet. The bald one, whose legacy was ruined by WWE, did manage to retain. Gina, I'll ask you first. I mean, did WWE ruin Ricochet's legacy? You know, and Ricochet also said that a lot of other wrestlers' legacy has been ruined in WWE as well.
I mean, yes, I can see from his argument in a way. It's difficult to argue because yes, WWE buried quite a few, but they've also like grown like some greats as well, you know. Um, yeah, it's a difficult argument to make here. Do I think Ricochet was just kept in the mid card too long that he got stuck with that stigma in WWE? Yes, 100%. Do I think he's getting similar treatment in AEW? Not similar, no, but I do think he is still in just a mid card like way, and I don't know it when they will eventually bring him up from that, if that makes any sense at all.
I completely agree. I mean, and Monty again, with Ricochet, there's someone we talked about he's got as much talent as kind of anybody, but has AEW done enough with him? Do you know what I mean? Like I said, in WWE, maybe fight for like US Championship. I understand his point of
Yeah.
view. I don't think he should be speaking about other wrestlers' legacies, but if he wants to
Right.
speak about his own, I think that's fine.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where he kind of stepped over the line. I think if anybody was a little bit annoyed with him, especially any workers or former coworkers or whatever, I can understand that because speaking on Sami Zayn, speaking on Shinsuke and all these other people, and I'm not, and again, you can make arguments to where you understand what he means, but again, that speaking on your career, saying they ruined your legacy, and because I understand when he was in Dragon Gate, when he was in New Japan, when he was in the Independence, way before he ever joined WWE, Ricochet did have a legendary air to his name. When he was in Lucha Underground as Prince Puma, he had that type of independent run before he ever joined WWE. So I can understand from his perspective why he felt like he was forever tainted, and like kind of what you mentioned, Gina, about him being in the mid card and how some people will always view him as his run. And he mentioned he's been in detail. He went in detail. He was miserable. And anytime you are miserable and you're working somewhere and you're just waiting on them to fire you, ask them to fire you, they won't let you go. I can see how you can look at that as just an overall horrible experience. But I 100% agree with you, James. That was always my problem with the comments when he started to try to speak for other people or about other people's legacies and all of that. And it's just like, yeah, you can say you like El Generico a lot better when Sami Zayn before he was ever Sami Zayn. But like Sami Zayn has also achieved some very, very high heights. Like again, has he been the world champion? No, but I do think he's been the most popular guy in the company multiple times in different runs, or the best, or one of the best heels. He's done a lot, and they can still be proud of their work, even if you don't think it compares to what they did in the independents, like okay, even with Kevin Owens or Steen or whatever. We talked about even like AJ Styles and like what the send off he got from WWE. Like again, you can say he was 10 times better at Impact, 10 times better at New Japan, but that doesn't mean the last decade of his career that he gave the WWE meant nothing, and we should not view it as the same way, even though we know it was different. Because every time somebody joins WWE, it's going to be different. But yeah, so I'm with you. I don't think he should speak on anyone else's legacy. He can speak for himself. But I do think until you mentioned it, Gina, I didn't even really give it serious thought that you can say that WWE had you locked in where it plays. And yes, you are doing some of the best character work. We never got to see you be a heel in WWE. Who knows if they ever would have let you do any of the stuff you're doing in AEW. That's very, very fair. But you are still pretty much in the same spot. And we're talking about 6 to 7 other guys in the world title picture who we probably look at as above you. Even if we do think you can be on their level, I don't think we see he's any closer to being where MJF is than any of those other guys we talked about who are at the top. The main event scene is still very crowded in AEW. So I don't think he could be talking about it there. Maybe he's just talking about AEW's quality of life and just how he's able to be himself and do what he wants to do, similar to how he was able to do before he ever joined WWE. Maybe that's part of it, instead of it just being a direct I'm stuck in the mid card type of comparison. But either way it goes, uh, what he feels about his career, I would never argue with him because that's his perspective. He knows what it was like hitting those towns and going to the shows and not being happy and not ever being happy with what he was doing week to week. But when you're talking about what Shinsuke Nakamura has done, when you talk about this and that, because again, I think, of course, Shinsuke, when he was the king of strong style in New Japan, I think he reached heights he still have never reached in WWE. But he's also opened the doors for the Io Skies and Oscars and other. Well, he didn't open the door for Oscar, but for Io Sky, for Kyrie, for other talents that we've seen come in Japan. You can even look at people like Okada who ended up in AEW. Would they ever leave that comfort of New Japan and go to America if it wasn't for Shinsuke showing that you can not have a 10-year career doing it? Also, so who knows what that means to Shinsuke Nakamura and how much value he plays in that, even if it is his own booking hasn't been as good as it was in Japan, So it's really hard to ever really speak for other people's legacies and how they view it. But as far as Ricochet viewing his own, I 100% understand and agree with everything he said in that regard because that's his experience.
Yeah, without a doubt. In the main event of Dynamite, AEW World Title eliminated. Brody King smashed MJF thanks to the distraction from Hangman. That was good to see, as were the fuck ice chants. Of course, there were rumours Brody had been off TV because of it. Andrade attacked Brody after and took out MJF, only to be hit with a buckshot from Hangman. Brody then finished as last man standing. Gina, again, like we talk about, it's nice to have something a bit different. And Brody King has built a bit of momentum and see him run through MJF. Even like to talk about with the Hangman distraction was good to see.
Yeah, definitely. I was happy to see this. Brody's kind of been in one of those ones who's always popular when he's shown on screen, but kind of not necessarily forgotten about when he's not shown, but like again, because he's just been with factions and groups most of his time, he's not really been taken seriously more as a singles contender, you know? So I think like this was great to showcase that he can be in that singles contender run and have the fans behind him and the hype behind him. He's gone from, you know, House of Black to sort of the one with Bandido. I can't remember their little Brodido. That's it. So yeah, I think it's really nice to see that he get this opportunity in this time to just showcase his more single status as a wrestler, you know, because I do think that he does have that, like, you know, at least star quality, and whenever he is shown in a match, the crowd are always behind him and doing, you know, the hound sounds that he likes to do too.
Yeah, and I think what's funny as well, the exchange between MJF and Brody, when talking about people like Malachi Black and Buddy, and and Brody saying no, they're my friends, and the fact is like MJF had that one friend, and when he got injured, he broke his heart, and it's like, yeah, I suppose friendship's
It's like
not
a
too
slap in the
bad.
face.
Yeah, MJF's just bitter. Collision February 7th, the Young Bucks beat the Gates of Agony to advance to a tag title four-way. I have no idea when the other qualification matches were. Tekla attacked Stat. Raging the champion wanted a Toxic Spider on the following Dynamite. Kevin Knight beat Scorpio Sky. Mina beat Viva Van. Zayda Still and Dante Martin got killed by Yuta and Shafir. Eddie Kingston, Ortiz and the Rascals beat Grizzled Young Vets, Big Bill and Cowboy Keith in a fun parking lot brawl. And in the main event, Ciampa defended his AEW TNT title against Claudio and Roderick Strong. Carl Fletcher challenged the champ for Dynamite. So let's not hang around. Let's get to it. Dynamite, February 11th. We started with Omega and Swerve having words. The clean and promised his goal was to show he was better than the mogul and would gladly fight him. After tempers flared, Omega slapped Swerve, and this led to a brawl. The Death Riders faced the Don Callis family again. This time, Mox, Claudio, and Pac beat Takeshi, Alexander, and Davis, with Mox pinning Josh. In the TNT Championship match, Tommaso Ciampa versus Cole Fletcher. Psycho knee and a brainbuster by the Psycho Killer could not keep Fletcher down, and a brainbuster of his own from Fletcher sealed the victory. After Fletcher said he was going to defend the TNT title in Australia, and Mark Briscoe asked for one more match in a ladder match. Monty, I mean, this was quite a shock, quality wrestling, but I did feel a bit sorry for Ciampa, and I was a bit annoyed that they went straight back to Fletcher and Briscoe as well, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that was the most annoying part to me was that just for some reason that means we need to go backwards to a storyline that we've already kind of seen play out. I do think Fletcher, if he's gonna hold this one a little bit longer, I do think this might be like a storyline thing for Fletcher because it feels like don't quote me, I don't know, but I don't know yet. I mean, maybe I'm spoiling something again, but I'm trying not to. But when it comes to Fletcher, I just feel like he is on more likely than not because of the things that they're kind of teasing right now in the family. It feels like Fletcher's gonna probably not be a heel this year. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong and he continues, but it's like this could be like a storyline enhancer for something that we may see later when it comes to Fletcher. But when it comes to doing it, when they had Briscoe get involved or seem like we're gonna go that route, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't like that. We don't need to go backwards in that regard if we're gonna do this with Fletcher. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting because I did think that this Mint Ciampa was going to kind of carry. I did think Trump was going to carry it a little bit, but to be fair, I feel like the TNT title outside of when Fletcher has it has been kind of hot potatoy in a sense for a little bit. So because like I think even in a promo a couple episodes before this, when Briscoe had the belt, he pointed out he had only like defended it once. So it was like it's very very weird that when Briscoe finally did defend it, he lost it, and then Ciampa gets like one defense in, and then he kind of loses it basically, or two defenses in. No, I think it was pretty much one. I think
No,
the three way was
just the
the
one. They
yeah,
stuck it in Collision. Yeah, they were just like,
right. The
look,
three
let's
way was
just
the
stick it
only
there.
defense, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's very weird. We'll see if Fletcher gets more than one, but yeah, it feels like the TNT title is kind of hot potato. I don't know how to feel about it. We have so many belts. It's kind of weird to kind of get up in arms about passing these belts around. Because how could they mean any less when you have 12 other belts? To be honest. But again, this is a really good match. Ciampa and Fletcher really did a good match, and I do think Ciampa should be putting over guys like Fletcher. But and again, we talked about we're like six deep in the world title, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe they realize we need Fletcher. Fletcher is just too good to not be in some title picture. We need him either holding the belt or around the belt. But our world championship picture is a little too full, and we're trying to tell a story maybe with him and Okada later. But we're gonna wait. We're gonna slow burn it, and for now, we'll just let Fletcher become TNT champion again.
Yeah. Well, again, like you said, well, Mox has been given the Continental title, isn't he? And Cardi's got the International Championship to keep him happy. So, like you said, it's just like, yeah, have a title
Yeah,
if you're not in the main event scene. Roderick Strong left Orange Cassidy to fend for himself against Garcia and Connor, and no one cared. Clark hasn't joined the Death Riders officially, and I'm not sure if he's all elite either. Darby started brawling with Clark to give OC the victory over Danny. Tony Storm was in the crowd. She called Utah an annoying shit. Wheeler and Marina cut Mina's hair to send a message. Number one contendership match: the Young Bucks versus the Rascals versus Private Party, who made a surprise return for the first time in over a year as the wild card team. BT Trigger on Quinn and the Melts driver on Reed gave the victory to the Young Bucks. Afterwards, FTR arrived to mock Young Bucks until both got shut up by super kicks. And Gina, isn't it great to see a returning tag team come back and lose? Isn't that fun? Oh,
It's
good.
just what we want, more disrespect for the tag team division. Perfect.
And not only that, but again, we talked about Briscoe and Fletcher. They're going back to FTR and the Young Bucks. And it's like, I know it's great, but there are other tag teams, you know?
Sorry, yeah. It does feel that way. It feels like they just keep the same few tag teams up and up there, and the other tag teams that they do have in the division are just nowhere to be found or are on collision shows only, sort of thing. It is all good and well, even with the jet speed getting the trios belts with Hangman, but also at this point, would they more have benefited just from having the genuine just tag belts and showing that they
Yeah.
could beat the likes of FTR? Is that the time that we should have just elevated those two on their own? So it does make it feel sometimes like the main tag belts have to stay on big favorites, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The Women's World Championship was on the line in a strap match, Chris Statlander versus Tekla, and the blood flowed in this physical batter, but Stat kept answering Tekla in the match with brutal strap shots. After a tombstone from the Cosmic Killer, Julia Hart and Sky Blue struck, attacking Stat and setting up a spear and a stomp to seal the victory for the Toxic Spider. After the Triangle Madness continued to attack before the Brawling Birds, Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor ran them off. Monty, I know I mentioned earlier about Hangman and Kevin Knight just watching Speed getting beaten, but Willow and Harley had already travelled to Australia, so I will let them off.
yeah,
And we mentioned the first battle between the two. This was even better, and again, the result. I mean, it's a shame Stats reign is over, but I think Tector deserves a chance. You know.
yeah, and that's the interesting thing because I agree that Tesla deserves a shot, and to kind of run with it, and I think the timing is okay because sometimes we do this and like I be mad because they missed the boat. We talk about the LA Knights, and we talk about other people who we feel like could have been got that big win, and even if it was a short title reign or a short whatever, it would have done wonders for their standing. But now we're past that boat, and they feel like losers. So you don't want to go too far with making Tekla wait. But at the same time, I do feel for Statlander because I felt like I mentioned, the bulk of her run, even though it was some good matches in there, I just felt like maybe she just never felt like. And again, maybe I'm wrong because I'm comparing her to how big Tony Storm feeling. Maybe that's just not fair. Nobody can reach those heights, maybe. But you would assume the woman who finally got the belt off Tony Storm would be able to at least feel like more of a big deal. And a lot of that has to do with booking. I don't want to blame Stat because I don't think Stat fell short at all. I think Stat is still great, and she. I do think I'm really interested in to see, do they just continue to chase? Do we change her up character wise because she fell short here? Like what happens because of this? But either way it go, I'm very happy for Declan because like I'm happy, but I'm kind of annoyed because I put her, I think, finishing the year. Now she's won it. She won it in February, and I'm like, oh my god, now she got to survive 10 months. And I'm like, oh god, my pick might not have like my year-end results. I don't know if she's gonna finish out the year on top. We will see. If she does, she will be very very successful as women's champion. But anyway, I'm excited to see what she does on this run because again, I always saw big things in her, and I knew she had the potential. And when you have basically the two witches and Megan Payne and Penelope kind of helping you out, and even Marina helped them out at one. Like you got all basically all the heel women on your side, in your web. I guess in her case, I guess it is nice, and maybe that is setting us up for a good run. I'm also hopeful that this expands because we know Queen Aminata, for example, had beef with her, so maybe this can rekindle that for an actual world title. And it's cool because, like I said, we had Tony Storm on top for a long time. We know that a Mercedes will get to this spot and win the championship at some point. I will be very very shocked if she does not become an AEW World Champion at some point. You know, she of course she has to return, and we'll have to see what story they want to tell there. But when you have a Statlander, someone who's like that, who's been basically here from the beginning, and always felt like she deserved to be in this moment. I feel for her, but I'm excited because, like I mentioned, it does feel like the women's division is in that mode of trying to build up a new crop of women to the Tony Storm Mercedes tier uh, for their women's division, and I'm excited because I think Tekla has the potential to be special.
Yeah, without a doubt. Tony Schiavone did say that he couldn't remember ever seeing a women's strap match. I remember seeing a strap match. The first women's strap match was Luna versus Sable, going all the way back then. I mean, I'm glad times have changed.
Wow.
And what is funny though, people
Well,
are still using the Luna character. You know, I mean, some might argue
yeah.
using the Sable character still, but that the
Yeah.
crazy Luna character is basically Tekla. You know, in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we'll move on February 14th, and it is Grand Slam Australia in the Open with John Moxley defending the Continental Championship against Takeshita. Both men looked like they were top of their game and gave the fans in Australia a match that would have felt at home on any AEW pay-per-view. Unfortunately, it went to a time limit draw. Mox got in Takeshita's face after it ended, so big take took him down and left him lying in the ring. Gina, what are your thoughts on the match? And another interesting thing, apparently Mox might have called an audible to the referee and to Takeshita to make the crowd happier for Takeshita to hit him with his finisher. But I still don't like Mox, you know.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
So Mox basically, the fans were booing after it went for a time limit. And then
Yeah.
Mox said to the referee, "Tell Takeshita to hit me with my finisher," and then the fans go home happy, so to speak, you know, from
Oh,
the
did
match.
he? Oh, okay.
Well,
If he did, fair play. I didn't notice that. I just saw the match and was like, oh, fuck off, Mox. And don't get me wrong, it's not because I dislike him or I don't want to see him at the top or anything. I think Mox is one of the best wrestlers that's on AEW at this point and is saving some of the storylines. So I'm just more annoyed because I really think Takeshita is up there and should be getting all the wins, you know. So I was annoyed for Takeshita taking the L, but I still loved the match. And if that wasn't the planned ending and they changed it, or at least what you say, Mox maybe did that, then I think that's even better, and I respect it because yeah, it was a great ending for it to happen, you know.
yeah, without a doubt. The women's tag titles on the line were Willow Nightingale and Hardy Cameron defended the belts against Penelope Ford and Megan Bain. The crowd was firmly on the side of Cameron and Nightingale, so everyone in the arena was happy when they retained the titles thanks to Harley pinning Ford. The celebration was cut short by the AEW of Lena Cross. No, me neither. Who helped Bain and Ford take the champions down. Monty, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, another solid title defense for Harley and Willow. You know, again, I thought I honestly was thinking mega bad. I guess is the team. I think that's the team. But yeah, team name. But yeah, I was thinking that this would be the time for Megan Bain and Penelope Ford to get it if they were going to get it. So it kind of like I will say the post match type of stuff, or like I mean it's one way to introduce someone, but like I just didn't. The crowd didn't really went into it, and I don't know if I how because it don't feel like at the end that it don't feel like we're done with this. It feel like that Megan Payne and Penelope might get more. And I just don't know if after you lose it, you know, uh, yeah, I just don't know after you lose. I don't know how excited I am for them challenging for this again when you think about this. But it is what it is. This is okay. It wasn't the best wrestling. I think Willow kind of, had to put her super work boots on, and the crowd, like I said, just didn't seem to be as interested as you would like. But to be fair, I guess, not to be fair, because I really feel like, especially for AEW crowd, yeah, I know we're in Australia or whatever, but like, yeah, I don't know. I know you got up for John Moxley to catch, and they took you 20 minutes, and it was great, whatever, whatever. But I do think you still owe the ladies some respect, especially when the crowd immediately after this for the Andrade match seemed to be back in normal
Yeah.
spirit. So yeah, it's really sucked. But I will say that the girls didn't necessarily. It wasn't the greatest showcase or anything, but like or because I feel like Willow was like by far in the head, kind of carrying the load here. But uh, we'll see where this goes. It does not feel like Megan Bang and Penelope Ford are done with them though. So I wouldn't be shocked that we get if we get more of them involved with each other after with that ending. But yeah, I actually thought we would get a title change here and we didn't. So we'll see how long Harley and Willow roll with it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, we did get to see a first time match up on the show with Hangman Adam Page taking on Andrade for a future world title shot. It didn't take long for these two to get to a strike and battle. Hangman went for the buckshot Larry early, but El Idolo had it scouted. In the end, Don Callis tried to interfere, but Hangman was able to overcome it and hit the buckshot Larry to get the win and earn his title shot at Revolution. So, Gina, the man with all the momentum, gets down by the cowboy.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I don't think I would have been mad at either outcome for this match because I think it would have been refreshing to see Andrade get that win and go into this, title match. But there's obviously beef still there with Hangman. And to be honest, I did go into this match thinking Hangman's gonna take it. So I wasn't surprised. And yeah, I guess I look forward to seeing what MJF and Hangman will bring for us next.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good for Andrade. Look at his run: beat Swerve, beat Omega, and then a banger against Hangman Page. He's doing all the right things.
Definitely. I forgot to mention that Andrade definitely has had a great sort of run up to this, and they've showcased that he definitely can be up there in that title picture run. So hopefully this isn't the end of Andrade. He'll just go back to, racking up those wins to then be put back in the title picture and eventually challenge for it himself.
Yeah, or be back in the Rumble next year. Who knows with
Wait,
Andrade?
yeah, actually, that's true. He may turn up in the Rumble next year and then be back in AEW by Christmas 2027, you know?
And how worried was Wheeler Yuta when he found out just the person that got pinned was to get their head shaved? He teamed with Marina Shafir, take on Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy. Yuta hit a pile driver on Storm on the top of the stage. Luther Garrido off while OC was left alone against the Death Riders. Storm marched back to the ring, hit Yuta with a low blow for going after Shafir with a series of German suplexes. The match obviously was chaotic and featured a handful of moments meant to be more fun than logical. Tony hit Storm Zero on Yuta to get the pin and the win, which meant they had to finally shave off the mop of hair he has been growing for the past couple of years. He tried to bail, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but John Moxley, probably second time in the night, came out and said, "Look, you got to face the music, kid. Go and get your hair cut." So there we go. And Monty, obviously, Utah now is going to hide that baldness. There's nothing wrong with being bald, of course. And what I loved about it was no one is batting an eyelid that Tony Storm pinned, like I said, pinned fucking Yuya in that matchup because she's a bigger star.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great point to kind of highlight, and I think also the AEW has done a really good job of kind of low key, but not really coming out and just saying it. But they pretty much, have pretty much normalized their intergender wrestling. I do think it has to make sense, and I do think you're 100% right. Like it's a reason why it's somebody like Tony, because it really doesn't hurt anything. Tony is like in her own world, own universe when it comes to popularity and and maybe if it is someone else trying to get this position, but to be fair, a lot of the faces for a long time had to let Marina beat the hell out of them, so or get a choke in every now and then. So AEW has been pretty good with that. So I thought this was fun. I agree. I think at the end of the day, it wasn't really trying to be the craziest or the most wrestle. It wasn't trying to be the greatest wrestling match, and it wasn't trying to be the craziest thing you ever seen. It was just trying to be good fun, and even with the stipulation. And again, here goes my confusion. Not a negative. Not saying I hate the Death Riders or I hate AEW. I want to understand what the hell John Moxley is, or like, are they is he a baby face? Like,
I think
what are the
he's
Death
definitely a
Riders?
face. He's
Yeah,
definitely a
Moxley
face
is
because
a face. Like Moxley
he
is
gave that
strong. Yeah,
promo, yeah, and he gave that promo at Wells End, didn't he? And since then, he's been acting pretty facey. But the rest of them, yeah, like,
yeah. That's the confusion. The confusion is the rest of the roster. Like Maria is definitely not a face. So it's like it's very very funny when you think about. I've never seen the leader of a faction turn and the faction either don't beat them up and say no, we want to stay bad, or they just don't all turn together. Like no, Moxley seems to be facing, like I said, Claudio seems to be in a weird middle place. Pac seems to still be bad, and Wheeler might be a little bit more face now that he's bald, but I don't know. But again, it's very funny to watch Moxley come out and be like, nope. No, 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 no. Hey, we're bad guys. We wanted to ruin professional wrestling for a long time. We were really angry. And we bullied and beat the hell out of everybody, but we stick to our word, you Wheeler.
Yeah, I don't know. But maybe they forgot to kick him out. Do you know what I mean? They went through the notes of stuff they had to do. And go, do you know what we didn't do last month? We didn't kick Mox out. Fuck's sake.
Right.
To-do list. Briscoe and Mark Fletcher. Uh, Mark Briscoe and Cole Fletcher met for the seventh time in a ladder match for the TNT title. It's not going to go down as the best of the series of 7 matches. It definitely probably was the most chaotic, though. Briscoe came close, but Fletcher was able to bring down the title to retain and get the win. And Gina, like I said, sometimes the champions are just in a whole pattern. Like we're not really sure what to do with Fletcher, so let's put him with Briscoe, and see what happens next.
Oh God, do you know what? The itself was good, but what was the point on giving the belt to Champa for a week? Like, I just don't understand what the point of that was. If you wanted it to be like Mark and Kyle versus Kyle again for Kyle to get this belt back, why didn't you just leave it on him to have this match at Grand Slam? Like yeah, I to be honest, I really don't understand that build up to it. It was a good match. It was a good ladder match, but I'm just over Mark Briscoe now, I think. And I think Kyle Fletcher needs someone else to be feuding with. There are so many other people on the roster that he can be feuding with, and having storylines with. So I'm just over at this point, I was just over it, you know?
Yeah, and again, I don't understand him saying that he wants to walk in as champion. I don't know what the difference between that is and winning a title in your hometown. Do you know what I mean? So even to have the
Yeah.
Champa Fletcher match here might have made it look bit more set. I don't fucking know. It's AEW, isn't it? The main event saw Brody King's challenge MJF for the men's world title. MJF played the usual mind games by leaving the ring as soon as the match started, as he could pose with the crowd. As soon as locked up, King shoved him right back out the ring. Bandido showed up towards the end to give King some support from ringside, but it wasn't enough to get him in the ring. After a hard-fought fight, MJF scored the victory with the Heat Seeker. And if there were fuck ice chants, they were edited out. I didn't hear any, and apparently they were. I don't know why they would edit out the Australians saying it and not Americans. But anyway, Monty, we mentioned Brody King running for MJF. I was a little bit annoyed they didn't try and recreate that. Do you know what I mean? Brody trying to put MJF away quickly, but it just kind of turned into a standard MJF match, if you know what I mean.
I agree. I think that's one of the things that kind of made this match feel like it was a little off, is that it just felt like it turned into a legit just another one of those matches. But the difference is Brody King tries to beat him with brute force physicality, while MJF just cowers around and try to be strategic and try to do what he does best, which is find a way out of this specific situation. I do think they still did tell a solid enough story. But yeah, man, I'm with you as far as the ice stuff. I'm not sure if it was any chance in Australia. What's the point of doing that when you're not going to necessarily do it in America? And I do think it's kind of cool that that's kind of like what Brody King has kind of become to kind of represent And I'm very petty. I would put him on the show for no. He go wrestle a damn broomstick just so I can get that chant on the show every week. I mean, it's almost I don't really care. But yeah, man. I think again, I'm with you. It would have been nice to kind of just see him. He didn't necessarily have to get to do that to MJF, but like coming out with that intention, coming out with that same fire that would have made sense because he had already did it before, and it's like to kind of come out without that, without us kind of going back to that and him just kind of doing at a completely different pace and a completely different tone to the match just was kind of weird. I will say that, but I thought it was okay. It ended up being a pretty solid title defense, and I just hope that this doesn't mean that this is going to be one of those times that Brody King is in this spot and then we don't ever have to worry about seeing him in that spot again. I hope he's around it more and more because, again, I do think that he has so much potential. And he can be one of those guys at the top of AEW. And if you just look at him, he looks like someone who, if you say that was the world champion, even if someone who don't watch a lot of wrestling, and be like, yeah, okay, he looks like he could kick everybody's on the roster's ass. So yeah, that's the one thing Brody King has over. He's such a unique. I think every other guy that's in that range, other than like maybe like even Hangman to an extent, kind of still wrestles similarly to a lot of the other guys that's contenders right now. But Brody also is the most unique, not only in size and look. He was the only guy that was a contender that wrestles the way he wrestles. So I do think that he deserves to be in this spot, and hopefully that they don't forget that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Dynamite, February 18th, Continental Championship eliminator John Moxley made Mark Davis tap out. Newly bald Willie Utah had his hood up during Moxley's entrance, much to the disappointment of Brian Danielson. Later, the Death Riders challenged the Don Callis family for Collision, and Mox wanted a no time limit rematch with Takeshita at Revolution. FTR tried to gaslight fans into believing it was the Young Bucks that started the fight last week. Stokely halfway made clear how much he, Dax, and Cash hate the wrestlers in the back. Matt and Nick arrived to Super FTR and Stokely and challenge FTR officially for a World Tag Team Championship match at Revolution. But Gina, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I care. Like it's just I don't know. FTR and Bucks, yes, but same old, same old.
Yeah, I think it's because we, for as fans, have been fans of AEW since the very start, and we did see a lot of FTR versus Young Bucks in the very beginning of AEW when it first aired and started. It feels like we've kind of been there, done that. Maybe like for more newer fans who have recently come across to AEW over the past year or so, this might be exciting to them. But for those of us who were here from the start, it's kind of like we've seen this already, though. Like you've got plenty of tag teams who could be in this position opposing you guys that you guys could be helping to elevate, and instead you're just giving us this. So yeah, don't get me wrong, both tag teams are great. We know that they're going to give us a great match and great content, but are we exhausted of this now? A bit, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's just I don't know. They need a big match for pay-per-view, but still. Brian Danielson got emotional talking about the late Cohen Seifels, who passed away on that Tuesday. He was a great in WWE, basically, and if you're not sure who he is, Google him. It is something really, really interesting. TBS Championship with a Nightingale defended against Marina Shafir, Megan Bain, and Mina Shirakawa in a fun four-way. Backstage with Renee, Chris Statler announced she was not medically cleared, while Thunder Rosa announced she was could fight Julia Hart on Collision. And again, Monty, not to kind of bitch and moan too much, but again, it's like, Thunder Rosa was injured. I know she came back, but like I said, sometimes they don't use a wrestler every couple of months. They might be doing something Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and again, they pick and choose to the how they send it because like we talk about, you got those specific situations with like Jake something that where you can kind of you know the moment and like that you know kind of how it happened and they it happens. But other than that, other than seeing it happen and hearing him say, "Yep, I told my pick," you just know that he's gonna be gone a long time. But AEW doesn't necessarily do the due diligence and letting you know, oh, this guy he's gone out, blah blah. It would be nice if every now and then they check in and just let you know that. But then I guess maybe that would showcase that would highlight sometimes how many people are just not being used on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's a
You
list
know
of
what I
like
mean? Like,
80. Yeah, you have to
right.
scroll
Like
through
if
to
they run
find
us
them.
through, right. If every week they ran us through, oh, we got 6 people out right now with different injuries and blah, 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 blah. And then you see, oh, well, this guy on the list and I ain't seen him in 3 weeks. He just in catering. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they don't
Yeah.
want to highlight all the
Uh,
people that they're just not involved in anything right now or in the storyline or whatever, like you mentioned. So maybe that's why they try not to do it, but it is disorienting sometimes. That's why I say sometimes AEW gets very, very not only overstimulated, but just disorienting and you just lost. You just like, oh, okay, good. I'm glad you're still employed. Good to see you. And it's just like, okay. And then they don't help. They'll bring the person back. They either have like one match and then they're immediately in a title match. It's just like,
yeah.
oh, or a title picture. And then we're just like, yeah, okay, this was quick, but all right. Nice to see you again. So yeah, it's one of those things that that I always find interesting and that it's one it's always annoying, but you know, it is what it is. That's one thing AEW
Yeah.
has all they've been consistent at that. Confusing the hell out of you sometimes.
I call it the Scorpio Sky syndrome. You know, like you said,
Oh
you
my
see him,
goodness.
and you go, is he back? Is he been away? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I saw him in a
MJF's
promo. I saw him do his thing in a promo and I was like, hey, Scorpio's still here. Good.
Like
uh,
they just made him seem irrelevant. They should have made a bigger deal at his return to make him feel like, oh shoot, we should be bothered by this big return because he's gonna do something big. Just being in a promo and being like, oh, you were gone and now you're back. Okay, so that's how his return is, and that's how I'm gonna take the rest of his run.
yeah. Well, at least he didn't come back in a match and lose like poor Private Party. So, anyway, and
True.
moving on. MJF started out clearly stating how much he hates Hangman Adam Page. The cowboy let Salt of the Earth go off for several minutes and said he hated him too. Hangman called for Texas death, but he had a stipulation he would never challenge for the world title again if he lost. Oh no, Gina, he's doing a Cody. Someone tell him quickly. Tell him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say here, but we're just gonna have to accept it.
Is he on his way to WWE? Do you know, Gina? Is that why he's done this? Is he going to main event WrestleMania in a couple of years?
I
Well,
don't know.
why do they
You
have to
guys are
bring
the
us
ones
back?
who usually tell me this stuff, so
Well,
I have
using this
no idea.
gimmick,
I
I'm
mean,
just
you would
like,
now I'm gonna believe that.
well, I
Well,
just
he
they don't
did
learn, do
take
they?
that picture with his friend, and it was like, he did get a lot of heat, so he's already rubbing these hardcore fans the wrong way. The next step to just being completely hated is to go to go to WWE.
Yeah, he'll be in
I
the
doubt
Rumble
it though.
next
I
year.
don't think so, but yeah,
He'll be in the Rumble
I do
next year
agree.
with Andrade. I think he definitely will. And then at the Chamber, it will be Marty Scurll in the box. Right up next, Orange Cassidy Nishi
Oh,
versus Gabe and Clark Connors. After physical back and forth, especially Kid Inishi, the Stone Pitbull suffered a hip injury that the Bullet Club War Dogs, if that's what we call them, targeted. Targeted. Darby Allin came to drag away War Ready, leaving Connors alone to take an orange punch and brainbuster for the victory. Monty, what? I mean, we joke about Hangman and Andrade. What the fuck is going on with Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors? Are they? Is there any
Clark
information?
Connors
Are
is
these?
legit fine. Clark
So
Connors
he's
is fine.
all elite, right?
He is AEW, yes. I don't know about Gabe. Gabe, I haven't heard anything being confirmed, but it feels like they might as well. And, you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? They might as well.
yeah.
He might as well be confirmed too. And from what I understand, they're not the War Dogs because, of course, Bullet Club, like I mentioned, Bullet Club is dead. But
Mm.
they are the dogs now. They're just they're
The
just the
dogs,
dogs.
right? The
They're just
dogs,
dogs.
right?
Yay. So I don't know. Clark Connors is signed because his partner or whatever the situation is. Because I'm not gonna act like I know or care. Tekla is also there, so they said he signed on not too long after his contract went over New Japan recently. So he is supposedly there. I've not heard anything clarified. It feels like Gabe has signed, and they just being quiet about it because he talk so much shit about AEW. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, as of right now, I'm just moving with the energy that they're both gone and they're just AEW at this point. And but yeah, they're the dogs. They're not really associated with the Death Riders or I mean, like I said, the Bullet Club is dead, so I know they're not associated with that. So yeah, they're doing their thing.
Oh my
Good luck
word!
to
Well,
them.
at least it's not confusing. Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor found a solid fight in their first television tag team match, but Van and Becca wore down due to physical offense. Brawl and Brutes finished the match with a meet in the middle clothesline and a two birds, one stone heart attack. Gina, I mean, again, it's good Jamie Hayter's doing something because we really like her, but they couldn't think of a better name than the Brawling Birds. Like, do you know what I mean? I suppose it will. I don't know.
Yeah, do you know what? I saw something like a discussion being on had online for the tag name for these two, but I thought I either read it wrong or the person that was tweeting about it was wrong. But I thought it was going to be the Brawling Babes. So when the Brawling Birds was announced, I was like, that's even worse. Like I don't know if I even like the Brawling Babes to begin with, but just a Brawling Bird, I don't know. It's not the best of names in my
No.
opinion, for a tag team for them. But I'm also not mad at their tag team. They're not doing anything with Jamie when they really should have utilized her better than this anyway. So if this is what she's got to do to, be utilized more, then fine, I'll take it. I'll have to get used to the brawling birds thing. Yeah.
I don't know if Ridge Holland's going to join them. Do you know what I mean? To get confused or something
Might
like that. Like,
nickname them and just call them the BBs, because I don't know if I can stick with it.
well, Kevin Knight beat Beast Mortis, and in the main event for the first time ever, Swerve faced Kenny Omega. V Trigger got the first near fall and turned up the tension. Swerve fought off another Snapdragon, a suplex Omega on the floor. Both returned to the ring with a cleaner hit, a wild Snapdragon superplex. Omega accidentally caught Aubrey Edwards with a V trigger when Swerve pulled her in the way. It cost the Mogul a pin attempt after countering One Wing Angel with a house call, but Swerve followed up with a Swerve stomp on the apron, capitated the jaw of Omega into the ring turnbuckle and hit a Swerve stomp for a shocking near fall. The cleaner fought back with V trigger and the poison Rana, but Swerve fought off the One Winged Angel, followed by a Swerve stomp and a big pressure for the win. Afterwards, Swerve continues to do damage to Omega, hanging him with a chain and the vertebraker through the table. Monty, I'll get your thoughts on the match first before we go into Swerve's demeanor change, it seems.
Yeah, this is really good, man. Top notch stuff. Kind of a dream match in a sense when you really think about what we kind of done. Like what we think about who they are and where they kind of place. What we got out of Swerve here. Also, I thought did a good job of kind of meeting these expectations that I'm sure fighting a guy like Kenny Omega kind of what Kenny Omega brings is like that name value that makes this a big time match, and I do think they did overbook it a little bit, but I do understand the reason why. I do think it was a good match. And it was pay per view material in a sense. And the crazy thing is, they probably could have even did even better without the shenanigans, just been a straight up match. But I do think this makes a lot of sense. And like you said, we'll talk about the demeanor change. But even with the way that using Aubrey Edwards and all of that, it makes a lot of sense. And I really thought it was a great match. Honestly, I really think they did a really good job of kind of just doing like everything that you can possibly do in a match almost, but still feeling like still leaving you with a sense that, oh, okay, if we ever scratch that itch between these two again, it could be even better, and it's hard to do much better than this, man. So this is a great main event. Two guys who I think were, one guy who I know has been at the top of the game for a long time, and a guy in Kenny Omega who, if he isn't back to where he was, he's definitely doing a great job of working his way back to that. And this match shows you just how good Kenny still is, and it also shows you that Swerve is at the top of his game.
Yeah, well, that's the weird thing. I thought this, and I don't know if any of you guys thought it as well, but I was just like, I would have loved to see this match from Kenny Omega like maybe 5 years ago and Swerve in 5 years' time, if that makes any sense. Because I know Swerve's great at the moment, but I just feel he's just going to get better and better. And maybe Kenny is not past it, but it was really interesting, Gene, wasn't it, to see the kind of Omega and Swerve with kind of where they are in their careers right now, and also Swerve, is he going to the dark side, or is he just showing everybody he is the most dangerous person in AEW?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and I definitely agree with you in terms of, where Kenny and Swerve are now compared to like maybe a couple of years ago where they both were. Um, and I do feel I did keep saying to Jax a lot, like, has Swerve gone heel again, or is this just him being him? Because he's still loved and he's still cheered for at the moment as if he was a face, but his promos are giving quite a heel tone to it. Um, I'm not going to be mad at it because whether Swerve is face or heel, I think he works both. I do think like sometimes it's better and more fun to be a heel. So I think even if he does go to a heel, though, he's a bit like Stone Cold, where he'll still be loved and in some ways cheered for, but also booed when he hits below the belt. So
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it.
Well, look what fucking Mox has done. Mox has tried to murder people, hasn't he? And the crowd still like him.
Yeah,
So,
and they're still cheering for him.
yeah. Oh, unless Swerve, I don't know what Swerve can do or what he has. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah. But a very interesting time. Yeah, I quite like that with Omega and Swerve. And again, you're building from the blocks you put down for the number one contendership tournament, so to speak, and
Yeah.
continuing that on as well. Collision February 21st, the AEW World Trios Championship Jet Set Rodeo. Defeated the Demand thanks to Jungle Boy's music playing. I tell you what, I am impressed with Toa. He gave a great promo on Dynamite, performed well here, and the next Dynamite as well. Definitely something to look out for. The Rascals had a backstage promo, however, they were interrupted by FTR. The Rascals challenged FTR to eliminate her tonight, which I accepted. Young Bucks defeated Swirl. Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. Andrade was confronted by MJF backstage at Hog Never Look Back, which was an independent show. Andrade told MJF he was keeping an eye on the Revolution title match. Speaking of title matches, CMLL World Heavyweight Championship Claudio Castagnoli defeated Josh Alexander to retain the title in a good match, which kind of stayed in third gear. These two guys, very similar in my way, just criminally underrated what they can do. I think they could just take it a completely different way. Megan Bayne defeated Becca. Tommaso Ciampa cut a promo where he declared he wanted the TNT title, or Sylvie, as he calls it, 'cause let's not forget his relationship with Goldie. Death Riders defeated Don Callis family again. I mean, I don't mind faction versus faction, but I don't think we need a six-man every time. Just maybe switch it up a little bit. Moxley laid out to Kestra afterwards. Baby Wrath called out Mega Bad, Elena Cross. We talked about Thunder Rosa return to action after 6 months and defeating Julia Hart, with Tekla appearing from the crowd saying she was out of her mind for challenging her. Of course, Thunder Rosa wants some. And then the Rascals defeated FTR. Young Bucks appeared to distract the FTR. The demand of Jack Perry got involved in a melee where FTR hit a spike pile drive for the younger brother of the Young Bucks, and no one cared. So, Monty, we know they're trying to make us feel sorry for the Bucks by having family members killed. But for me, and I nearly forgot, having MSK and FTR is always welcome, because I think we forget how good MSK were in NXT before, like we say, the Hitler shenanigans.
The shenanigans. It's crazy.
I didn't love
Uh,
it, but
yeah, hey, that's what it was. But anyway, yeah, man, I agree. I think, I understand like what we kind of get, what we got here, like you mentioned with the young bucks, and I don't know how much more baby face you can kind of get, than getting your father or whatever. That's very classic. Let's get some sympathy type of deal. But again, it was effective. Kind of funny. Always funny to me when the heels beat up on people who ain't got no business being out there. But yeah, like you mentioned, having MSK involved when you kind of when you got Cash Wheeler and Dax, and then of course again, we know the demand is going to get involved also. So, we have a lot of great talent mixed in here. Even with Jack Perry being hovering around it. So this is just again, it's like you can't really take away from it what you're watching from that perspective. Sometimes all the shenanigans and what you're watching can get so hectic that you kind of forget that yeah, we got some really good talent revolving around. It's like I mentioned before. We talked about it last year. One of the big talking points when we were doing AEW reviews was just how lackluster the tag division felt like it was becoming. And I do think with the Gates of Agony getting better and with the Rascals being involved, and even now we finally, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they even done anything other than that one match, but yeah, Private Party. Again, it feels like they're gonna probably finally start to add more toward the tag division, even though we do feel like we're also still getting that Young Bucks and LTR, you have to do something to make that a little bit more different than what we've already seen before. So I do think injecting the rascals in this and all that does give you a little bit of that too. But yeah, this is all good to me.
Yeah, and Collision was arguably better overall show than Dynamite was that week, which was pretty surprising. So last Dynamite then, because we were a bit too late for Collision, February 26th, 25th even, Mox beat the Clone in an eliminator match. It was weird hearing Prince Nana Hill again. I mean, Gina, we love Prince Nana, don't we? And all of his kind of joking around, but when he came out with a kind of hill, with a hill, I'm just like, what? Like, we like nice Prince Nana, don't we?
Yeah, it's kind of just like, in a way, like your dad coming home happy and your dad coming home angry. In a way, it kind of gives that sense and that vibe. Just
Yeah.
those you are.
Yeah, I don't want him to be mad. Swerve stepped up and the announce table explained he will no longer live his life with regrets. He's doing whatever he needs to do to get back the world championship. He warned the entire locker room to watch out for the most dangerous man. Gabe Kidd beat Orange Cassidy pretty decisively. Darby Allin attacked Gabe and Clark afterwards. And why are the trio titles treated as secondary by teams that have won them? I mean, Gino, I'll ask you this because the trio titles, just everybody hates them. So Samoa Joe and the Ops had them. But obviously, Joe was more interested in the world title that he was holding. Hangman and even Kevin Knight now, who beat Mansoor, Kevin Knight wants a world title match. So he's not happy about the trios titles. Even the Demand, who had a match for the championships, already had a title. So what's the point of the trios titles?
This is what I was saying earlier. Like I love Jet Speed and I do think that they need to be up there in sort of the tag championship picture. I just don't think they needed to go into this trios thing, especially when Hangman's got his own story going with MJF for the main title picture at this point. Why do you keep giving the trios belts to people who are more involved in single storylines right now than actually trios that aren't doing anything? Give it back to fucking Dark Order. At least it'll get them
Yeah.
out of catering and just doing something. At least they're a consistent trio that will constantly be out. Like there are loads of factions out there that can have trios belts, but you choose not to put it on them, and then you put it on people who you've just put together. And yeah, it just doesn't. In a way, it just doesn't work. So these trio belts do feel dead in the water at this point. And even though I was happy at one point for Jet Speed, I'm not so happy for them now because I don't really think that there's any light being shed on them and their championships. Like you said,
Mm.
Kevin Knight's got his own agenda for going for the world championship. Hangman Page already has his match set. So those two are focused on that. So, the other one, what is it, Mike Bailey? He
Yes,
sat in
people's not
catering,
happy.
just picking pepperoni off his pizza, waiting for his buddies to come back. Like it's just ridiculous because there's not going to be any trios tag title belt matches anytime soon because of this.
Yeah, and like I said, the amount of members in the Don Callis family could have it. Even the Rascals, who became a three-man team, they were like, "No, we'll put them in a tag team." That makes that makes more sense. We only have a tag team and one singles guy as trios, all right, nothing else. Another ridiculous thing was the coin toss between MGF and Adam Page deciding what match they should have at Revolution. Of course, the coin was rigged. So Tony Khan then decided it was officially Texas Death. Women's World Tag Team Championships, Babes of Wrath versus Mega Bad. With a strong start for Babes of Wrath, Ford turned the tide with an acai moonsault, but the landing was bad for the bad girl low, and she had to be helped to the back as the Babes and the Wrath went after the Megasus. Lane Cross attacked with the championships, causing an obvious DQ. Cross and Bane beat down the champions while the Megasus posed with the TBS Championship. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Gina, you mentioned earlier about Penelope's original injury, and now it looks like obviously she suffered a second one. Not long how she's going to be out here. But again, Monty, when I was watching it, it looked innocuous. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think anybody was to blame. I just think maybe it was a bad landing. You know?
That's exactly what it seemed like to me. Just another bad land. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I know she has a history of like kind of being like she's that this has always kind of been her thing, the flip or all of that. Like she has a history of doing it, but with these increased injuries, and it's not me saying she shouldn't do it, but it's just like one of those things that kind of come with that being a part of your move set is that it can go wrong sometimes, and it's really unfortunate because I wonder if because this is such a quick kind of rehash of a match that we already had. I wonder did they not that the Mega Bad was going to actually win the belts here, but like is that why we get a DQ finish because we don't get many DQ finishes in the AEW. So is that what we got here because Penelope couldn't finish it, so they decided that this is the best way to kind of get out of this segment. And we also kind of got that syndrome again of what you guys were just kind of talking about because Megan does not only want the tag belt, she obviously wants Willow's other championship too. So again, this multi-focused type of, but I'm in a tag team, but I really want to be a single champion type of disease that is going around AEW cannot be helped. I guess I understand it because they have 55 championship belts in the company. But yeah, I wish Penelope the best because again, that's just unfortunate. Again, I don't think anyone did anything wrong. It seemed like anything just like freak happened. It went bad and it sucks. And I hope that for her sake she's not out too long because I do think her and Bang were building some chemistry. But yeah, it'll be cool to see. I guess this is a good chance for the other lady to kind of step in and maybe she'll either be the new tag partner or something going on, or just I don't know, maybe just Megan's valet. As we know, she's
Mm.
probably going to challenge the TV for the challenge for the TBS title, maybe at Revolution. So we'll see. But yeah, man, it sucks for Penelope because again, you don't want to see anyone get injured, especially in a title match where they could. You never know. Like again, if she don't get injured, they walk out as champs. You never really know now.
Yeah. Well, this being the internet wrestling community this day and age as well, Gina, obviously a lot of people blamed Harley Cameron, so much so that she actually deleted her own social media. I mean, why are there so many cowards
Oh,
out
so
there?
that's why.
Do
Oh,
Wow.
you
that's
know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's just I heard about this and I just think that people are just so stupid and evil out there. It's so easy for you to hide behind a screen and a keyboard and just throw shit and blame everywhere. Like
Miserable.
it's a horrible world out there and I don't understand why this world has to be nasty. I mean, it wasn't done maliciously. I even thought it was done accidental. I did not see any botch by Harley for her to receive any form of online hate at all. You guys were just behind Harley. You guys are the reason that she is in the position she's in because you showed her so much support. So how can you flip up and switch and send so much goddamn hate to her that she's deleted her entire social media? No, honestly, people, the world is just going to go into the biggest shithole with this online hate that is being spread out there, and one day it's going to come crashing down on everybody else, and I can't wait for it all to turn on them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Harley doesn't deserve that. She doesn't deserve the hate. It wasn't her fault. It's unfortunate. I'm really scared that Penelope is slightly like Dakota Kai, and what's that other one who messed up her career, Tegan Knox. Is
Yeah.
just unfortunately she's been cursed by Danhausen, and just every time she's good again, she just gets another injury, and he is very injury prone. But just stop the online hate. It really is just cowardice, and it's got to stop because they're going to they're going to start refusing to even perform for us anymore. There will be a time where people are just like done with it, so people need to fix up.
Yeah, and again, it's the people that are sending out these comments. The first comment they get bad, they'll be the first person to fucking moan about it, you know. So, anyway, we'll move on. And the
Exactly.
meet,
And in the words of Cody, these are written by people with anime profile pictures and, their favorite local football team in their bio, and that's that. So it's just funny how some of these things work.
yeah, without doubt. And the meet off, Brody King took on Mark Davis. Davis slowball King stayed strong, ceiling and win with a strong lariat. Afterwards, King made clear he wanted to face Swerve Strickland at Revolution. Swerve and Prince Nana watched backstage, seemingly accepted the match. Bandida also called for a fight at Revolution, and Andre answered the challenge. We did hear the Don Callis and Fuck Ice 2 chants, which were great combination. I will say, AW fans, well done. And then the main event, Mile High Madness, FTR Demand versus Young Bucks, Jack Perry and the Rascals. And while Tarzan Boy played, FTR Demand beat down Jungle Jack Perry, starting the match. The teams fought all over the arena, stadium stampede style, until the music finally ended and the talent started to come towards the ring. Tables broke around the ring until Ricochet was alone to take a Young Bucks assisted running knee from Perry to get another pinfall victory over the one and only. I mean, Monty, this was basically Stadium Stampede, but again, it's fun and we're getting it on a free Dynamite, you know?
Yep, can't complain, man. It's just again, you got like I mentioned earlier, you got Desmond Xavier, Zach Wentz, just doing what they do best. Spanish flies through tables and stuff. You get the Bucks kind of hitting, doing their greatest hits. LTR was doing good heel work and just being consistent as they possibly can be. And you got Ricochet coming in, flying around, and also taking the ass whooping with the rest of the crew. And Jack Perry got a little bit of revenge for everything he's been put through. So yeah, man, this is like one of those things that, like you mentioned, definitely give off Stadium Stampede vibe. They can call it something else, but I do think again, you are spoiled as an AEW fan when you really think about how just on a regular Wednesday night you get stuff like this to cap out your night. And even with all the AEW's faults, I think that's one thing that they really do their fans a service with, and that's what makes AEW AEW. The fact that we don't have a PLE in this whole podcast, we just talk about so much high quality, great wrestling. And the funny thing about it, we'll be doing a year end podcast, and we probably won't remember any of it because we're talking about February. But it's still great, top notch stuff that some of this stuff probably could be match of the year, but we know AEW is going to top it because we got so much more wrestling left to see. That's how spoiled you kind of get with AEW, and it's kind of insane when you really put it in its proper context. This is just weekly television for them, but this was very, very fun. Ricochet, took another loss, so you can, if you want to be annoyed, that is something to be annoyed by because he's won the championship and has done pretty much nothing but lose since then. But I do think he was a good foil, and like as far as entertainment goes, this was very, very entertaining. And I think again, you can't ask for much more. So we'll see where this goes. Hopefully, I don't know if this is like a set up a Jack Perry title match with Ricochet going for at Revolution or something. Maybe I don't know if this is gonna have any bearing on Revolution. That's how quickly things change when it comes to AEW. But this is really good.
Yeah. And I think the thing is as well, like we talk about, we're going to have Revolution in a couple of weeks with a couple of Dynamites. And now then AEW will revert to type of a monthly pay-per-view to build up. And I think this has been quite good to see. I think this is what makes it different to WWE. Maybe they should look at it. I know the pay-per-view buy rates will go down, but to give himself a little bit of space to see what they've done. Because, like I said, Dynamite and Collision have been enjoyable. And every couple of weeks, you get like kind of big Dynamite or a big match. And yeah, I think it's been all right. So, Gina, last for you then. You have to wrap it up. We just watched 2 months. We've just gone through 2 months of AEW. What are your thoughts on it as we head to Revolution in a couple of weeks?
I mean, I want to say I look forward to it. I feel like, we're going to be getting maybe Will Ospreay return soon, so we might have, something there with him and Swerve or him and someone else when he comes back. So, but then there are other things like, Champa coming in, winning the belt and losing it a week later, and real legit tag teams not actually being given opportunities because they like to stay with the same ones, so I still feel 50-50 when it comes to AEW. Some weeks I really enjoy the shows, some weeks I don't, but I'm still going to remain hopeful. I like all of the wrestlers that are on there, so I'm hoping that, you know, we'll get some more upsides coming our way at this point. So yeah, right now I'm 50-50.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, but that is it for today. Don't forget, of course, all social media, X at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR Pod James. You can find the entire WNR team on the banner. Monty, where can people find and follow you?
At my Monty Pod on Twitter.
And Gina?
You can find me on X and Twitch at Purple Pain.
Dublin also on Facebook and Instagram. Send us an email to dublinpodcast at gmail.com and YouTube, the Dublin Podcast, where we're approaching 11 years now of the WNR. And we've got Schultz, Universe. I've done it. I'm gonna get 2K26 and I'm gonna play it, and then we're gonna do all the annoying things. I'm gonna go on the island and stuff I've never ever done before. So that will all be on YouTube coming up. Also, the podcast is live on YouTube, also on SoundCloud on your phone, also Spotify and iTunes. But you can download, subscribe, rate, and review there. So that is it. Our next episode is the Elimination Chamber. But until then, I've been James Rollins and was joined by the mind of Monty. Monty, thanks for joining me. It's weird, we've just done like an AEW update. I think it worked all right.
Yeah, it's good to be caught up, man. Because man, imagine this show and 3 more weeks Revolution. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it would have. I think Gino would have been a bit too much, wouldn't it? To have this amount and a pay per view to do.
I would have totally forgotten everything that we just reviewed, and I would have been saying, "Is it?" as if I'm listening for the very first time. So I think it's very, very good that we got this catch up out the way.
Yeah, we did it, guys. Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for listening, everybody. And bye.